see. Oh, there she is. Oh, that's cute.
Thank you, Sheila, for pointing that out.
Hi, Francina. Unmute yourself.
How you doing, Randy? There we go.
Oh, there you go. Oh, good to see you. Boy, it's been a long time since we've been all together. All right.
Very long time.
Yes.
I love the background.
Oh, especially it's because of this meeting. I have others that I use. So let me go back. We just approved, but I would like for it to be unanimous that the bylaw provision to allow for if an opening comes up for the board rep. You saw it in the thing. Can we get your approval for that?
Yes, you have my approval.
Okay. All right. So we only need one more. All right. We'll get it. Okay. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay. So we'll continue to follow up with the letter to the editor submission. I think it's important that we continue to be a presence talking about the importance of federal funding, and we as staff are continuing to be engaged in those conversations on the local and national advocacy levels as well, including trying to get questions on transit funding into the town halls and debates that are being on the presidential level. So it's an issue that's critical to the survival, essentially, of service in our region and the economy. So we're very focused on it, or as Andy Byford would say, laser focused.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll share that once it's been printed or if they have any revisions to it.
Okay. All right. So I guess the board report. Well, there really isn't much to report. I mean, the ridership is still tanked. I got an email for a board briefing on the 21st. I think it's the 21st of this month, and so we'll have more information about what's going to be discussed at the board meeting, which is I think the 28th of this month.
I'm sorry, Randy. What time is the briefing on the 21st?
They usually start at 2 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, 2 o'clock, and then the meeting is going to be on the 28th at 10 o'clock.
Great. Thank you.
And old business, the MTA financial crisis. I mean, is there anything else that we can add to this? Lisa, is there anything else to add to it?
On the financial crisis, the situation is just getting worse every day. The MTA is looking at, I think, being able to be liquid through the end of this calendar year. It's borrowed money through the municipal liquidity financials fund, which it's going to, I believe, maximize the amount that it can borrow. We on the advocacy level have been looking at ways to extend so that that fund doesn't sunset, which is scheduled to do this year, to drive down the interest rate, to lower the interest rate, to extend the borrowing cap, and to increase the dollar amount that can be borrowed. So that's happening on the financial level, on the advocacy level. We're also looking at as you may know, the New York State was declared an anarchist state, and as such is not eligible for some of the excuse me, FDA funding that's being made available for research into COVID. And my understanding is that there is a lawsuit that's being developed at the Attorney General level for several attorneys general who are in the same situation. And we will be looking at whether or not we're going to sign on to that letter. That's breaking news.
Okay.
A good article in the Wall Street Journal yesterday about the comptroller's report and all that, and the liquidity and, ridership. I thought it was a pretty broad, all-encompassing piece, which spoke to not just the ridership, but also, the budget impacts and they're trying to get funding. And so if you hadn't had a chance to see it, it's a good one.
Yeah. And it's just terrible. I mean, all of the, I think that they make a good report, a good case for the fact that it's not just hurting New York, and it's not just hurting, anybody from a particular party, but that it is really damaging It has potential to damage the economy on a much broader level, including the vendors that we've been also focusing on. And, hopefully it will, by being included in a variety of different news sources, I think that reaches different audiences in Washington also.
I have 3 questions. I have a couple questions. I had read about New York being labeled as an anarchist state, yes. And I was wondering, Andy, can you just share that link with us, that article? I didn't read that particular one, but I've been hearing about it this week. And I wanted to know, has there been a decision, made a final decision on what new fares would look like in 2021? MTA, the Metro North?
No, we usually, those hearings would be held in November, but I guess it would extend to December, but it really, and I don't know, there would have to be virtual hearings because they can't, I think the New York borough hearings usually draw hundreds of people, he said, don't they?
Yes, they do. Well, some of them do, some of them don't, but they get a lot of comments, and they certainly raise a lot of attention. And, Andrew Albert always talks about how they're held around the holidays because he likes to see the Christmas decorations on Staten Island. I think that there's a lot of watchful waiting to see what's going to happen with either additional stimulus money that's going to come through immediately after the election or next year as a priority. So the budget for the MTA that the MTA usually sets and votes on, that the board votes on, is generally in December. It's released in November, voted on in December, and includes that information on revenue from fare hikes and tolls, et cetera, anticipated revenue. There's been some discussion about whether or not that was going to be released and voted on in November this year, to take into consideration the dire financial situation and start making contingency plans, or if that's going to continue to be in December. And Randy, maybe those are some good questions to ask in your briefing about when the fair hearings will be held. The MTA has said that they want to hold any increases to the planned 2%, but that may or may not be feasible if no additional funding comes down the pike, or the tracks, we should say. Francina, you're interested in the link on the anarchist state?
Yes, and I was wondering how, I know this is way too early to tell, but I read about the decision that was made about the census, and I'm wondering, could the low count impact the funding for us here in the city or even in New York, impact us on transportation funding overall, and what would that look like?
Not good.
It would definitely have that. It could definitely have that potential.
Yeah, I was afraid for that. When I saw the decision, and I was just wondering, like, why I think that's going to impact us with funding for transportation as a whole for the state of New York.
Well, the administration is not friendly towards people like us in New York, and so on. All of these actions that are being taken are not helpful to us.
It could also cost us congressional seats and electoral college seats and undercount. So there's been big focus on, apparently Brooklyn and New York City won so far. So all the other borough presidents are trying to be competitive and get people to fill out the census.
There was an op-ed.
Obviously, if you haven't done it, you should.
Yeah, there was an op-ed in the Times today that said that there are fewer. Let me get that. I'll come right back. It was very interesting.
I'm going to send a link to the Daily News story from today.
Yeah. Thank you. So we're basically going to get hit twice. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll get hit in multiple directions, but we're going to get hit with the fact that the administration's giving us trouble for funding. There's a lack of revenue coming in because of the pandemic. And now the census could potentially impact us as well. I mean, it's just been one after the next. This is terrible. Oh, thank you. I got it.
So this is from Farhad Manju. He's an immigrant. He voted for the first time since 2000. And he says that, there was the breakdown over here. He says that it's his state, that there is a Senate which gives all states equal representation regardless of population. So voters in Wyoming, the least populous state, effectively enjoy 70 times more voting power than us chopped liver Californians. And it's against the it's fine. Like, the Electoral College. There was one other here. 47 Democratic senators, actually it's 45 plus 2, represent nearly 169 million people, more than the 158 million people represented by the states. The Senate's 53 Republicans. So, I mean, it is right there. That's why we're in the mess. I'm sorry? Somebody said something? Okay. All right. So the next is new business, set up meetings with assembly members. Otis and, okay. Otis and Abenantham. Where is that?
So I haven't made those, that outreach, but I think that we should it probably makes sense to do that after Election Day. Just because I imagine that they're busy supporting whichever candidates they're supporting. I probably know who Steve Otis is supporting, but you never know, right?
He was at the North White Plains press event with the Senator Gillibrand.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to say that, so we reached out to Amy Paulin today. Amy had been at the Bronxville event. She and I had spoken about the gas tax conversations that we previously had based on research that Sheila had pulled together that looked at a revenue of about $1 billion, close to $1 billion, depending on how much it was increased. The Assemblywoman's research had come back substantially lower. So she asked that we share with her the work that we had done on it. So her staff person is going to ask how she would like to proceed. So we'll be continuing to have a conversation with her.
All right, good. All right, is there anything else anybody would like to bring up?
I'd like to introduce Gav. So Gav is our newest intern, and she's working with Bradley on a very exciting project that they'll talk about more next time when it's framed a little bit more formally. It's still a lot of conversations and brainstorming that are going on, but I think that it's under the sort of umbrella of resiliency in the MTA and how the COVID crisis is affecting the agency's resiliency plans and projects. Is that right, Bradley?
God, you like to say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Gav. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's nice to meet everybody, and I look forward to telling you more about our research next week.
Next month. And you're Yonkers, right?
Yeah.
So you're Metro North.
Yeah, I have good access to the Metro North. The one line, I'm at the end, 42nd, and I live at the border of Yonkers, so a bunch of my bus stops have access to the B line and the city bus.
Good. Okay, well, welcome. So our next meeting is November 12th. So I sent the list of proposed dates to Lisa and the staff for our meetings for next month. The other councils will also do that, and you'll have it in a month or so. But I think we're going to be continuing to meet virtually till further notice, so nobody has to go.
Right. I mean, I think it's a format that allows us to have good representation and participation and information sharing. So if the Zoom is working for everybody, then we'll continue on Zoom. We've tried several different platforms, but I think that this one works the best.
Yeah,
I agree.
An organization I've been a member of for many, many years used to meet monthly, except for July and August, in the Roosevelt Hotel, which was announced last week that they're closing. So our meetings are held in the evening. So of course, no one is going to the city, but our turnout on Zoom has been phenomenal compared to what we would get if we had people having to come into Manhattan. So if no one else has anything else, I'll make a motion.
I just wanted to raise one other thing. As you
Sure.
may know, there had been news about businesses in Grand Central that were unable to make their rent and the issues associated with them. And in fact, they were banding together to have a lawsuit against the MTA and against the state. And Lady Gaga's father is one of the people who's involved in that. Over the last few days, the MTA announced that they're going to be doing a revenue-based rent, and so revenue from the from the businesses, and that their rent would be based on that instead of a flat fee. And they're going to extend that to those of you who are familiar with the Turnstile Underground Market at Columbus Circle, which just reopened yesterday, and by the way, it's fabulous. They're going to extend that policy there as well. So I think that's a step in the right direction.
Right.
There's a mask force coming up again on which is mask distribution on the 21st and the 20th and the 22nd. Is that right, Sheila? I think, right. So we will share that information for any of you who'd like to participate. It's actually a lot of fun.
If I was in a city, I would do it.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
sometimes they do them at like Metro North stations. I will tell you, I was riding the Long Island Railroad last week, and somebody asked the conductor for a mask because her mask was deteriorating, and the conductor said, "Oh, we don't have those on board," and Metro North does. And I got in touch with our contact at the railroad, and I said, "I think it's time to revisit this."
Sure.
So that
Yeah,
even if we just need to work and ask labor if they would participate, I think that would be helpful, because I carry extra masks, but they should be available on board.
Yeah, I was at on the 1st of this month. I had a medical appointment at Mount Sinai, and I took Metro North, and I saw the fellow at the platform, the passing control agent, whatever they call him. So he had them a belt, and he had them sitting in a pocket there, and he handed one to someone who asked for it. The mask compliance was very good. There was only one woman I saw walking actually in the subway. She was in the car I rode from 125th down to 103rd Street, who didn't have a mask, but she had a cup of coffee in which she was drinking. 125th was a different story. Too many people were without masks, or they were wearing chin masks, or their nose was exposed. It was quite scary for someone like myself. So I hope that the compliance there is better. I did see two station people working in Grand Central. When you walk from the Lexington up toward the shuttle, it's at the big, where they used to be, the subway used to actually run there until 1917. And they were joking around, and their masks were down here. And I nicely said to them, "You really need to set a good example by wearing your mask." And I guess they saw my pass hanging around my neck, and they right away put the mask up there, and they said, yeah. So it's been pretty good. All right, so if no one else has anything else, make a motion to adjourn. Get a second?
So moved.
Okay, then I guess we're
And I just want to say, through all this, Lisa, thanks to you and all the staff. I mean, I know it's probably hard being in different places and all the work you're trying to do, not being able to get together and do it in most cases, but thank you all for doing what you're doing. And, it is appreciated, and, we appreciate it, and, it trickles down, and we know, it affects the ridership. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your dedication to this, to riders as well. You may not know Ellen Shannon retired yesterday. Was her last day. So we'll be, I know. It's the end of an era. So we will be pulling together under Bradley's leadership a virtual retirement party for her.
Okay. All right. So motion, the meeting is adjourned then. See you all next month. Stay
Thank
well.
you all.
Safe,
And-
everyone.
For Lisa, I'll see you and Andrew next week.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.